Hey everyone, sorry for the late start. We had a little bit of technical difficulties when it came to a grader. We seem to have lost one of our northern compatriots, but we will not let that deter us, and we will going to keep on driving on. And of course, my name covers up the issue we're going to be covering tonight, but it is Captain America number 350. So this seminal issue in the 90s Cap run will be what we're doing. So let me go over to
Oh, hey,
the
Gino, I don't
channel.
think you're in.
It never does that, man. It
You're
never
in like
goes into
a separate
my.
video
Do I need to
because you need to go live through the one that you made the thumbnail for. You know what I
let's
mean?
see here. Hold on a second. Why won't it let me do
I mean,
this?
if it's tough, I can just tell the people in the chat to go to this one. This must be live because there's some people in this chat.
Man, yeah, everyone's waiting on this one, and I can't go live through here that I can see.
Yeah, I'll just tell them to hop over if you think it'll be tough.
Yeah. Tell them it's on my channel. Just shoot on over there. Sorry, guys, y'all are hearing this too.
This is Mission Control. We're switching over.
Yep. All right, forgive me here. Having some technical difficulties. Sometimes it doesn't want to launch out of the earlier stream that I set up. Probably user error. That's my guess. There we go.
Okay, I just notified. The chat. Why don't you get me on the? Put me in, Coach.
All right, so sorry about that, guys. We're gonna have to do a little adding of people. So here we are, my august fellows. You'll know directly to my right and to probably your left. We have none other than Mr. Kenny from Comic Kid 84 fame. Kenny, say hi to the good folks this evening.
Using the word fame loosely, brother, but I'm very
Oh.
happy to be here with you guys. Wouldn't miss it, dude.
All right. And further to his right over there, we have none other than the one and only legend of comics knowledge and community ambassador himself, Mr. Medrog. Roger, say hello to those good people out there today.
Oh, it got really hot in here for a second. Hold on.
Well, my
okay.
camera is on, so.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you for that very, very, but very, very over the top and way unnecessary introduction. You know, I am just old. You know, it's like anything else, right? I've just been around longer than most, so I can see more. I've seen more in my past, but I am. As I love Graders Notes Nights. I've looked forward to this all day because I read it and I'm roaring. I was ready to take on Mr. Miracle, but no worries. I'm ready to take on whoever is in here.
All right.
All right, that's a great way to be, and I do want to again apologize for any technical difficulties we had here. We had, like I said, a last-minute cancellation, and apparently it didn't want to launch out of my earlier stream, so I do forgive me. Got me a little discombobulated there, but yep. For those of you who are returning, this is Graders Notes, and this is where the series where we take a look at a usually semi-famous issue in the past and kind of give it the latest grade. Let's see if it meets the high standards in our criteria. So tonight's issue is, of course, none other than Captain America number 350. For those of you who are collecting in the 90s, this was kind of an important issue. A lot of stuff going on. Cap was in flux quite a bit back then. Well, at least for about 20 issues or so. And this also has a lot to do with the Super Patriot, aka John Walker, who I always thought was an interesting character. So I thought this would be a kind of a cool book to go over. And it was pretty popular back in its day. And Cap wasn't the hugest book back then. People were always all on Spider-Man and X-Men and everything. But he had some pretty good runs at the time. So anyway, we go over a couple different metrics, 4 technical metrics, and then an overall grade. And we each have a few minutes to talk about each portion of it. So we are possibly getting another grader in here. I'm going to give him a minute or two to get in here. So what do you guys got going on this week as far as the channels go?
Go ahead, Kenny.
Oh boy.
typing.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, dude. I got your boy. Your boy scored big, man. Over the weekend, I went to my my underground connection. We met in a dark tunnel, and I acquired the goods. So
Woo!
there's some spice in here. I'll just give you a little taste. This is all real notable fire books. I'll just give you a little taste.
Oh.
You know, a little.
Oh,
And let me just give you. Let me just
You
do
just
a.
had the Taskmaster. Come on, man.
oh,
You gonna sell it again?
oh.
Let's see. How about just a random?
Yeah.
Not random. You know, and if I just cut the deck, you know, I don't know, there's fun stuff like that in there. You know, all kind of goodies. All kind of goodies. Oh, how many GI Joes is that? You'll have to find out when you watch the stream.
Oh,
You better lift your shirt so we can see if you have a kidney scar there all of a sudden.
right.
Yeah.
Where are you getting all this bank, man? I tell you.
Look at,
Man sells one
look
Taskmaster.
at this. Look at this. Yeah,
All
when is
right.
that stream coming, Kenny? Because I definitely want to be there.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I didn't do this. I didn't realize we had the Immortal one in stream, so this one's for you, Biggie.
Oh,
welcome,
there you go.
welcome, as
There you go.
always.
Biggie.
Nice
And
work.
keep growing that beard, brother. I can't deal with you like that.
Yeah.
You look like a low rent Hulk Hogan with that kind of Fu Manchu going on. I like it,
Biggie.
though. But you need the full beard.
I
So,
love that Biggie
how about Midrog? What do you got going on this week?
Well, I just today was the first roundup of the year. It was kind of a slow week, you know, with the holidays and so forth. This to be understood, but things will be ramping up soon. And I got, I guess he called it a torpedo from the man in the middle here, Comic Head 84, which I will be doing a video tomorrow night if I can keep it together. Because it is all kinds of awesomeness that, well, I don't know what else to say except see my video tomorrow to see what that's all about. And then next Tuesday, I'm going to have one of my special Tuesday videos, which is, Kenny, if you think I've done deep cuts before, you got to see Tuesday's video. This is like penetrates the earth deep cut.
Ooh, going down
coming
to
on
the core.
Tuesday.
The Earth's core. That's how underground it is.
Yeah, this has drawn magma and metals from the core. This is really a deep cut. So you'll be interested in the little video I'm putting together for Tuesday.
I love those. Awesome.
Well, cool. We're getting right down there. We just had our guest host for the evening, our pinch hitter, just came in there, and hopefully he is all technically squared away. He's the reason we're late tonight, so we're going to blame all issues on him. So, and really, Simeon, thanks for coming in, my friend.
Yes, as usual, everything is indeed my fault.
As long as you're cognizant of that, we're all good. But yeah, he did a hot tag in, so we really got to appreciate it. Before we get going too much more, if Mr. Medrog, he's the best at this, would be so kind as to introduce the fifth grader.
Right, the fifth grader is you out there in the chat, and there are currently 17 of awesome personnel in the chat that are never wrong. We are always wrong. You are never wrong. You are always right here on Grader's Notes. Well, and Ruli can be right here and again because he's our pinch hitter, so he's always right here and there. We got James Gallegos in here. How you doing, buddy? We just emailed this week. Good to see you. Scott Neely's here. He actually on my stream today. He actually on my video asked, "Hey, what channel, what time?" He wanted to be here, so welcome, Scott. Tim, the comic collector's here all the way from St. Louis. Yeah. Thomas Wayne, another guy who was saw my video today, and I guess he switched over. How you doing, Thomas? Great comments always. Bake the snake. My man from the Keys down there, living the dream down there in the Keys. I can't. One of my favorite places on earth down there. Then we also have, of course, the immortal with one M. Okay, SIK, sick. Biggie Shack in the house, the supporter of us all. And then we have Mark Knapp 68, my future moderator. And there's an in joke there at some point. We got Steve from I Love Disney and Comics, who's picked up some really great stuff last year. One of my favorite videos of his He picked up like all this obscure stuff, which I love. And then we got one of my favorite buddies, Super Russ 9000, all the way from North Carolina, is in the chat. And the musician himself, Conquistador Cavi, is also here in the chat. And of course, one of my no faces, well, he calls us co-host, but he is the host with the most, Bub Comics, in the chat.
What a lineup.
What a lineup in here. I tell you, we got superstar, all-star, we got Grand Slam hitters in here. Perry Comics is in here, probably lurking, so he's probably out the back door at some point. And Joe Bag of Sevens is in here as well.
Yeah.
And I think I got everybody, Gino.
I'd say that's pretty thorough. That's a pretty thorough breakdown of the all-star chat that we have each and every other week when we do this show. And it really makes this show worth doing, if you think about it, because, otherwise it's just four guys talking to each other. But right now, it's just like 20 guys sitting around rapping about a comic book. So I really dig that part of it. And we have beat the 6-person limit that StreamYards imposes upon us. So thanks for making us basically a team at this point. We're no longer just a small squad. We are an actual team. We're almost a platoon here, people. So as I said before, we do have a little bit of pinch hitting in tonight with Unruly. And since we sprung it on him kind of late, I'm not sure how much he got through of it. But just give what you can. And, if you feel like you cover the story good enough or whatever that, we'll talk about that, just tell us to skip, and we'll skip you on that one, all right?
No, I'll be good. One of y'all go first, and I'll get this done real quick.
All right, well, that'll work. So, as y'all know, we usually start with the cover, and I see no reason to change that. That's a great way to start. First thing that someone sees when they walk into the comic book store, and this is a pretty iconic cover when it comes to Captain America. So, I'm going to go ahead and lead this off with Kenny. Kenny, what do you think of Captain America number 350's cover?
Let's see. First, by the way, let me say, what's up, Unruly Simeon, my brother? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, brother.
Hell yeah. Always love an unexpected Unruly Simeon hangout. Let's talk about this cover. So, let me do this real quick, because I had to go the digital route, man. Like one of these teeny boppers, brother.
I've had to do it many times, man. Many times.
Let me see if this works. How's that? Oh, can you pop that in the screen? Here we go.
Oh, here it goes. There it goes.
All right, I'll do it like this. So, Captain America 350. Did that zoom it in a little bit? Oh, no, that didn't. Please hold. Okay. Yeah, Cap 350. So, when you first look at it, the little clash between Cap and Cap is pretty cool. It's like, all right, face off, very nice. That immediately kind of piqued my interest, but this is Grader's notes. So I'm not just glancing at these covers like we do when we're flipping through them and picking them up at the shop. I had to get the microscope out in this thing. And the more that I started to dissect it, the less I liked it. I feel like there's really low rendering and detail on the characters. It seems like a pretty quick. I would guess that this cover didn't take the artist very long. I feel like it's a pretty basic illustration. I would have liked to seen a little more rendering. I don't really love the trade dress on this issue. I think it's one of the laziest backgrounds in town, man. Just a bunch of straight lines with some color gradient. I guess there's an explosion back there or something. They're fighting in front of an explosion, I suppose. That didn't really do it for me. Your basic, I don't know what you call that shape, that jagged circle shape, which is that's the most basic thing to be 50% off, clearance sale. I'm like, well, that's uninspired too. Supersized 350th issued. It just seems real. Is kitschy the word? I don't know. It didn't. Yeah. So nothing. I just felt like, I think the main word that comes to mind for me on this one is just uninspired. You know, yes, those guys fight in the book, which I always like when the cover is relevant to the story, so that's cool. But meh. So I gave it a pretty meh grade. Even though I gotta give it up to the captain. I've always liked that black suit. I really dig that. So I think he looks really cool. But something about the Captain America, or is it, on the cover, just, I don't know. I didn't think he looked very well done. So I gave it a pretty meh grade. This one landed at a 2 for me.
All right, a 2. Pretty low start here for such a seminal issue, but I appreciate the honesty. You know, they can't always be great.
Yes,
So
sir.
we got a 2 here from Kenny. So all right. So I don't know, Medarog, can you improve upon this, or is this just a fool's errand? Was this thing just hopeless from the start? What's your take?
I wouldn't go to that extent. I see where Kenny's coming from. At first glance, if I saw this on the newsstand, I would say, this is something that would catch my eye. The bright orange with the kind of meshing into yellow, and then you have the two figures about to clash. I'm a sucker for these confrontation covers, first of all. So whether it's teams, whether it's villains, or rarely it's heroes versus villains, I'm just a sucker for that, because I know that there's going to be some good fight scenes inside, or hopefully there will be, right? But this one, at first glance, I would give it a higher score, but Kenny's right. When you look at it a little closer, the figures, it has an awkward pose. If they were running toward each other at that speed, their fists would not be in that position. They would be closer to their heads, you know what I mean? Or their bodies, or somewhere. It's obviously a pose made so it almost like if you were putting a movie together and you wanted somebody to have a good angle about the two main antagonists, this is what you would do. You put them in a pose, but it's very weird with that front leg almost doubled in, and it's almost like they're handshaking in the middle there.
Yeah.
It's just very awkward as far as that goes. I agree with Kenny. I think the captain costume is just very cool. I like the tunic style. It gives him a more modern flair, but still the Captain America costume is classic and timeless. But again, I do like the color in the background. Just kind of bring out a little bit of the power there. But yeah, I agree. The shape of, especially a Captain America, is a little odd. His head, it looks just kind of off. He looks too thick. The Captain is a little better drawn. And yeah, you're right. Those Walmart special balloons there, they don't do it for me. But I think it's still a little bit better than it's average. Again, I did a plus and minus kind of equation with this. I gave it some pluses. The actual concept of the cover, the color scheme. I do think those lines are a little bit lazy. You're right about that, Kenny. But still, I think it's good enough that it would make me buy this cover. So I went with a 2.5.
All right, 2.5 from Mr. Medarog. All right, that's a serviceable grade right there.
Yeah.
Mark that down. That's the first one.
Yep, that's one. Prize when I hit 10. But so I guess I'll go ahead and go next, and I'll give him really some more time to catch up on other stuff if he needs to. But so I'll go ahead and throw my 2 cents in there. Let me just get the switch. Sorry, we got several things going on here. Okay, so the cover. I can actually show you the physical copy. Well, Roger has to. But so there's a lot of I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I give this a whole extra point just for the fact that if I was your run-of-the-mill comic collector, even if I wasn't a Cap collector, I would probably buy this book. When you see stuff like this happening, another thing is late 80s, early 90s, Marvel loved the hero fight. That's what sold books, man. They just loved it. They did it all the time. So, and of course, usually it was like 2 panels of them fighting, and then they would just get back together after realizing the error of their ways. But I mean, this one just grabs you, man. It's got U.S. Agent and Captain America, and we know more. We'll know more about the story later on, what's going on here. But I saw some other stuff in this that I thought bear mentioning. While the art is rather nondescript, even though U.S. Agent looks miles better, I think, in this, just because you don't see the details that are lacking.
The captain.
Yeah, your U.S. Agent uniform, excuse me. But I was trying to give away the story inside. Other than that stupid red belt, but I mean, they have to do something to give him a waist. But anyway, this is like a image of duality here, and if you notice, their poses are exactly the same, and you can't see them actually making contact. You know, and this is more like the red skull in the background than anything, even though they knew, maybe because they couldn't use the color because of their gloves or whatever wouldn't show. But so I don't know if they're actually making contact with those fists. Otherwise, it is a goofy pose, but everything is exactly the same. They're just a mirror image of each other. So it kind of a lot of this book is like that. So I think that might have been part of what they were going for here. There's a little bit of execution problems, though. Like I said, some of the details aren't too good. There's a little bit of irregularity in the anatomy, especially once you can see it more on Captain America over here. And it's just a little bit awkward. And the background is a letdown. Too much text down here. But they did want to grab you with this, Captain America versus Captain America. Once again, the heroes fighting always sold books. So I'm not a huge fan of the orange in the background, but I guess it's supposed to simulate an explosion, or I'm not totally sure. But anyway, it's a pretty average cover, but I'm going to give it a little bit higher score because of it does exactly what a good cover does. It's supposed to do. It's supposed to grab the normie out there to go out and pick up this issue just because it looks cool. So I'm going to go a little bit higher than my compatriots and give this a 3.5. Like I said, I bumped it up almost a full point just for the fact that the cover just grabs you and makes you want to buy it. So, and that's an important aspect to the book. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 3.5.
Ooh. Nice.
Yep, a bit higher.
Nice.
But that's not just on the nostalgia factor or anything. I'm just thinking of, I know what I collected back then. I know what most people collected back then. And like I said, there's a hero matchup. People usually bought it. So this one just screams hero matchup. So
yeah, I agree.
Can't go wrong there. That actually kind of falls into the concept a little bit too, but more on that later. Yeah. So, Unruly, how you doing over there? You ready for your first segment?
Oh yeah, I'm good to go, y'all.
He's primed and ready. All right, well, take it away.
I had issues with Comixology getting this book, and my credit card had expired, and I'm paying through my Amazon account, so I had to run over there and switch up the new one and blah blah blah. All right, here's my deal with Cap. I knew the Kirby stuff from being a kid, and I guess I was conversant with Cap up a little beyond the Nomad phase. But when this came out, I wasn't reading comics. So this is pretty interesting to me. And I agree, it does what it needs to do as a cover. It presents a cool image. That is a cool costume the Captain is wearing. And if I was a Cap fan, this certainly wouldn't have turned me off. But I mean, let's face it, the background is non-existent. I'm not as detail-oriented as y'all have stated. I don't notice little inconsistencies in anatomy, generally speaking. But this is just either, if it's the same guy that did the interiors, then yes, it's poorly drawn. He is an average comic artist at best. And when you're Marvel and you're pumping out an ungodly amount of books a month, which has been their marketing strategy ever since the late 60s, then it's hard finding the ranks of really good artists. No, this just doesn't impress me at all. I like the colors. I'll give it that. I like the colors. I can't believe it gives away, or maybe it was already, known in the series, but it was certainly a surprise to me who the villain was. Mm-hmm. And then I flipped back to the cover and like, oh, okay. But I give this a 1.5. That's as high as I can go on this.
Wow, nice. And we are everywhere tonight.
1.5.
1.5. Thanks again, Unruly, for pinch hitting, buddy. You're the best, man. What can I say?
Oh, I love it, y'all. I love it. I just wish I'd have been better prepared.
Well, you couldn't have, man. We told you like what 10 minutes before the stream.
Yeah, Simeon threw his cape on and saved us.
Yeah, man. Come on.
Hey, sorry about that. I missed the score. I was grabbing something. What was the score?
1.5.
1.5. Oh, harsh. Did you see that comment from Scott Neely? Looks like the gang fight from Beat It.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, yeah, that is
actually.
When they stack them together.
Yeah, they just come real close, but then they step back. Come real close and step back.
Oh, let me get back here.
And you're right too on that huge chest that Liefeld did on the captain. That was a classic too.
Yeah. I thought there was an alien in there ready to burst out of his chest. It was so bad.
They have all videos just dedicated to like the anatomy, and they do like perspectives and all, just of how bad that one is. But
yeah, I thought maybe that storyline was he went to LA and started hanging out with the Kardashians or something.
Yeah.
Who do we talk though? He's the one that made millions, right? So
yeah.
Apparently someone liked him for some reason. But all right, so right now we have got our grades in. It's time for you, the fifth grader, and not the actual grade schooler, to get in there with yours. So go ahead and throw your scores in the chat, and we will tabulate them up and see how it lines up with what we got going on. Ours is definitely a mixed bag.
You guys think with all this COPPA business, we should stop saying fifth grader?
No, there are no kids on this stream. That's obvious.
No.
Yeah, that's very obvious.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is unruly. You were asking about the cover artist. This is Kieran Dwyer on the cover as well as the interior, and Al Milgram on the inks. So, not exactly a superstar team.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? Al was competent. I'm thinking whatever this has going for it, he pulled it out of the fire.
Yeah. His inking was pretty good, I would say, but still, I wouldn't call this, I'd call it a B- team at best.
And that's being overly generous, bro.
Yeah. And that's what kind of ticks me off a little bit about this issue is you have such an important issue going on, and they had every heavy hitter in the industry basically was working for Marvel at the time. They couldn't pull Jim Lee off. They pulled him off in what?
Yep.
33 more issues, and look what he does with the Cap.
Yep.
And that was a quickie.
Yeah. Of course, there's a Byrne. Byrne did have a story in here, which we'll talk about later, and that may have been he may have said, I only have time for this many pages. So,
was Jim Lee on Captain America for a while? Is there like a Jim Lee run of Captain America?
No, I think it was just a few books here and there.
Okay.
Yeah, he just did a few of this. I think he did that anniversary issue and maybe one or two others. That's it.
Yeah, he didn't spend too much time there. But
he didn't.
Hold on.
I'm trying to find a picture here, but let's see. If you want to start, Kenny, you want to get the old abacus out and
yeah, it's out.
Okay, and Roger, if you can read some scores off, I'm trying to get a picture here.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll go ahead. Okay,
work here.
Two from Steve. I love Disney Comics. 3 from Joe. 3 from Tim, comic collector. Super Us with a 5. Ooh. Maybe I'm just seeing it through nostalgia covered glasses. Russ coming in strong. Out of 5, yes. Scott, I forgot you're the first time here, Scott. Yeah, everything is out of 5, and we do have. So you can do 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 exactly. So Scott Neely is coming in with a 3. Mark Knapp says simple art. I'll go with a 2. Blah blah blah. And Jason, how you doing, buddy? Is coming in with a 2. And I think that's it.
All right, get your grades in there, people. It's your last chance.
Last chance before Kenny hits the enter. No, I guess it's on the abacus. Before he slides it over for the last time. Oh, here we go. Thomas Wayne comes in last minute with a 1.5.
That one's for you, Scott.
And a 2 from James Gallegos.
James Gallegos. That puts us at a chat grade of 2.5.
2.5. Keeping with Roger. All right.
Roger.
I tell you, sometimes, remember, it's what I always say, even broken clocks are right twice a day, right? So.
I think it would have been closer to me if there wasn't if someone didn't have a sudden surge of nostalgia in it. Yeah.
It does seem like the chat agrees we do have a serviceable cover here.
I love
Russ,
it.
Russ, his grade was from the heart, brother, not from the head.
And you know what? That's kind of great, bro. So it's all good, Russ.
That's all good. It's all good. We need those heart grades too, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that a lovely image of Cap? I mean, jeez.
It is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw that broad painted on the side of a B-52 World War II bomber.
You know what that
Lady
is?
Liberty.
That is an artist who is more powerful than his editor right there. That's what that picture is.
Yeah.
And that's such a shame, isn't it? But what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, remember Marvel was in dire straits at the time, so it was like they were desperate. Let's put it.
Oh yeah,
they were just desperate.
And like I said, he could do. Of course, you know Jim Lee had that power too, but he put out good products. So
yeah.
But anyway, that's enough of that. So let me get this moved back over here, and we will move on to the next area of the book, which is going to be story. We're actually going to skip it around a little bit. So let's start with you, Roger. What did you think about the story within this one's pretty important issue as far as events of Captain America go? And let's
agreed.
Give us your take.
Well, I think we were discussing this off line. Mark Grunwald did the story here, and he's been on this title for I think a couple years, maybe a tad more. So he's been setting up a lot of subplots that culminate here. And if you notice here, in 333 is when Cap gives up, or Steve Rogers gives up being Captain America, and that starts an avalanche of events that lead to another Captain America and Steve Rogers taking another identity, but figuring out that he can still do what he has to do and not be in that costume. But I'm not going to get into all those details. This issue had some really good, I believe, ideas. The execution of them perhaps a little less inspired than the actual ideas. And essentially what's happening here is that all the machinations in the past, we find out who is behind it. We find that there's a political and a social and economic power that is using this situation, or the current Captain America, which is Mr. Walker, to discredit the ideals of what Captain America stands for. And he does that. He did that through, various things I'm not going to get into. He had various villain groups, which are, essentially they were there to upset the apple cart, to propagate nihilist principles, and sort of turn the public against the ethos that America had at the time. And again, as far as the ideals of the plot, I think it's a good idea. But again, some of the dialogue it's a little banal in places. You have a setup, like, for example, here, where there is a truck going out of control, and the captain, which is actually Steve Rogers, goes in to save everybody, including the apple pie. If you notice there, the apple pie that was being held by the mom, that was being about to be hit with the truck. Now, I don't know about you, but don't you think that the apple pie could have been a kind of a forethought? Isn't the baby a lot more important? So why risk it, right? Why not use two hands on the baby? So these kind of things, I think, they go too far as the symbolism goes. And when I get to the art, I'm going to show you some more symbolism and homages. And then you have this great conspiracy that at first we are to believe it's the government, but really it's the Red Skull who's behind it all along. And it has really good ideals, but again, the way that it's propagated here, it's a little too convenient. All of a sudden, the captain happened to be in the room when the commissioner was killed by the Red Skull, and he happened to trace the call. How he did it, we're not sure. It's sort of a convenient kind of mulligan there. And then all of a sudden he's not believing that it's the Red Skull. He's denying it almost all throughout this issue. It seemed to me like Captain America would first want to think it's the Red Skull and then move backwards, not say it's not that great a threat. That seems unlike Cap to me. So again, the execution there, the actual character, I think was a little off. And of course, the Red Skull is now actually in a clone body that looks just like Steve Rogers. And that's explained in the second story, but I'll finish up this one at first. I also don't like the fact that the John Walker character is violent and just totally, aggressive toward Steve Rogers, and then at the end he's like almost like a buddy and is actually, deferring to him. That seems a little bit, again, too convenient, just too contrived of a plot device there. And of course, the Red Skull kind of is going to be reverting back to his persona, or not his persona, but his physical identity. That's okay. I think that's okay, because that's, if he kept being the same kind of figure as Captain America, things could get very confusing and it'd be harder to write, perhaps. And then there's a little origin and explanation of how the Red Skull survived his demise in Captain America 300 here. And that is actually a story that is written by Grunwald, but drawn by John Byrne. And I think this is a really well done synopsis of what happened, and also all the historical events that Red Skull and Captain America have gone through. I'm sure I've gone way over. I didn't see here a turkey call, but all that being said, I think it's a better than average story. It had a little bit too much convenience, a little bit too much contrived dialogue and situations, but I think it did sort of hit the mark as far as stating that Steve Rogers is the ideal of America, not the costume itself. If that was the thrust of it, I think that point got through loud and clear, and that there are machinations out there, political, economic, social, whatever, that can be manipulated to forward agendas. And I believe that is the case as well. So as far as the destination, it was good. As far as how I got there, not quite as good. Overall, a 3.
All right, 3 it is. So pretty good score, better than average. Pretty good synopsis of the story there. None of us have anything left to talk about now. But
sorry,
no, I didn't have the timer pulled up. I was gonna did it, but you were halfway through. I didn't want to stop your flow at that point. But beware in the future. I'll be watching the timer. So, all right. So story. I guess I'll go ahead and take the next one. I'm not sure how much Unruly's gotten through there, so let's see what I can do for it. War and Peace. This book is War and Peace. This is one of the densest story-wise comics, and I've read War and Peace, that I've ever read. It's too long. I don't like to say that too often about books, because you want to get your money's worth, right? This was a whole $1.75 back in the day. It was pretty expensive, but man, they could have cut so much out of there. And not just, well, here's one of the problems. Red Skull turns into a really bad trope of being the walking exposition dump for most of this book. It's great to get the story. I do like this. They set up Red Skull to be so technical in his plan to overthrow America, and they go through this a lot. He's no longer the one-dimensional, I want to take over the world character. He's like, look, I don't have superpowers, but I do have a super amount of money, and I got henchmen, and I'm going to bring down the country from the inside out. That's how I'm going to do it. He does want to take over the world eventually, but he's going to do it through the greatest superpower in the world first. If you bring down America, everything else will fall around it. That was kind of the idea at the time. So I do like how they make him more than just the scheming bad guy. This guy he's in it for the long haul. And he has a new lease on life now, and he's basically going to be immortal. If you read through, especially the pre-story in there, when you find out how he got his Steve Rogers body. So yeah, Red Skull's here to stay, and he's got plans for this country. But yeah, man, it was so much writing. It was hard to get through. This is almost like a two-parter, and the fact that I have to sit down and step away from it after about half an hour. because it does take a while to read this. Now it's not a huge slog, but it's just maybe a little bit longer than it needed to be. That's my biggest complaint about it, though, other than some silliness like Roger so ably pointed out about the whole saving the baby routine, and he basically saved everybody: the truck, the baby, the mother, and the apple pie. And he did it basically making Super Patriot look good because he's wearing his uniform. But I digress. So there's a lot of stuff going on before this issue happened that you kind of had to be aware of. But if you just coming in raw, it get us kind of tied up a little bit. But let's get down to what everyone really cares about in this book. This is basically the complete breakdown of John Walker at this point. He has been manipulated from day one by Red Skull for the sole purpose of tainting the Captain America name. He's a super powerful guy, and he means well at heart, but like most people who are evil, or at least bad, and have power, he doesn't know it. And that's what he turns up to being. He kills a lot of folks, and he kind of means to do it. At first, the first couple are accidents because he doesn't realize how strong he is in his power, but then he begins to enjoy it a little bit. And, he doesn't want to do things the hard way. He doesn't want to take time. He doesn't want to use the legal system. He just wants to get his enemies dead. He's kind of got a Frank Castle approach, but he's so deluded in his own mind that he doesn't think he's like Frank Castle. In fact, he would probably hate Frank Castle because I don't know, he's a hypocrite. But so basically, stuff is made that he and Steve Rogers fight. It's a little bit contrived, like Roger was saying too, how they get together and scrap, but it's a good one and very worthy. This is a lot different than most of the superhero fights that we had back in the late 80s, early 90s, in that this one goes on for several pages. You actually get a good superhero fight here. And it's really indicative of Steve Rogers' character on how he chooses to take on the far superior U.S. agent, at least physically. So I won't ruin that for people who haven't read it or my fellow graders who might want to talk about it. But the fight is A+, A+, A+. It's very worthy of the book and the series. And basically, it's a selling point of the book. And that part they do right. So I got a little long-winded myself there. But with all that said and done for story, I'm going to give this a 3.5. It was just way too long. They should have narrowed it down. They should have streamlined it more and not stuffed it so full of words and exposition, but just get down to business, and that's what people are wanting to see in a comic book. So 3.5, better than average for sure, and a lot was told about the Captain America story, but it was kind of a little bit plotting. So, yep, 3.5 from me.
Nice. Very nice.
So, all that diatribe being said, Mr. Kenny, what was your ideas about the verbiage within?
The verbiage, let's see. Can you pull up my little screen thing there? Because I might use it as a little aid as I go through the story. So, yeah, Captain America, more like Yaptain America, because everyone's yapping throughout this book, brother. I feel like I gotta say the guy we find out who is Red Skull is definitely wordy and is definitely exposition dump guy, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I gotta say, when I started this book out and I read this part where he kind of introduces his stance, who he is, and stuff like that, I thought it was one of the better villainous self speeches that I've read in a while. I really got into it when I read that first story. And at this point, I had no idea it was Red Skull. Coming from this and I haven't read much Captain America at all, honestly. So I really didn't know much of what was going on for a lot of it until the pieces by the end of it, all the pieces kind of fell into place for me and I kind of was picking it up, I didn't catch that this guy here with the pronounced jaw, the big grin, and the cigarette was meant to be a clone of this guy, Steve Rogers. They kind of explained that later, but I didn't realize he was a Cap clone until later when they spelled it out. But overall, it was a little convoluted of Walker thinks that he's the impression I got from what Cap says later in the book during their fight is like Walker thinks he's Cap Rogers, but he's not, or he has like fake memories and doesn't know exactly who he is. And Red Skull is not Red Skull, he's Cap in his body. So it was a little convoluted for me. I'm like, what? But maybe that was just me. I'll throw this might be a credit to the artist, but I'll throw the writer a bone on this. When there's two like sneaking scenes in this book that I kind of like those pages. Like this is Cap sneaking into the building. And I like that the writer just shuts up during these scenes because, it gives you the sense of silence that he's like silently sneaking into the building. So I'm like, that's a nice touch. No, when someone's sneaking into the building and trying to be quiet, no thought bubbles, no dialogue. It kind of made me feel like I was sneaking along with old Cap in there. So I'll give a kudos to maybe the writer with that. The dialogue is pretty bad. Like this is kind of a weird scene when Walker does like The Shining, smash his head through the wall and it says party time. So that was a little weird. I guess that's his kind of character. I don't really know who Walker is, so I guess is he that kind of guy who bashes his head through a wall and says party time?
He is now.
He is. Here's the second.
He comes and goes that way.
Oh, okay. The second sneaking scene, again, no dialogue, quiet. So I'm like, nicely done. But yeah, it's just too wordy. Like the Red Skull character. Hold on, let me pop back. You can take this off. I'm gonna finish with a monologue to the good people of the chat. So there's two words that were used in the dialogue by the Red Skull character that are red flags that this book is too wordy and is not and is clumsily laying out the dialogue. When a character says furthermore in his dialogue, it's like you're going on too long, and people don't speak like that. And then there was another part when he uses the word so in short, and then summarizes his point. I'm like, dude, if you have to say furthermore and in short, you're not writing organically. You're thinking of it as like you're writing a book with no pictures, and you're writing it like novel style, and you're not writing for this medium. You don't want to narrate comics like that, and you especially don't want that kind of narration to come out of people's mouths. So, clumsily written in that way, a little wordy, a little muddy of a concept, but I'll say that the overall mission here, once I got to the end of it, I guess I appreciated it more when I was done with it. Said, okay, I see what they were doing there. But I didn't enjoy it as much while I was reading it. But when I finished reading it, I was like, okay, fair enough. I got the story. Like Roger said, the thesis is kind of Cap is not the costume. Cap is the idealism that he holds, because the clone, Red Skull, definitely don't hold the idealism of Cap, and Walker doesn't. He's bashing his head through while saying party time. So he ain't holding those red, white, and blue ideals, brother. So I didn't give it a very high score. I call it down the middle at a 2.5 is my writing grade, story grade.
All right, 2.5. Well, we got another serviceable here. Look at that.
Yeah,
It seems to be a night of averages. All right, let me go ahead and put that into the history books here. And that leaves just one more on our Augustler group, and that is our late bloomer, in pun only, Mr. Unruly. What's your take on this? Was this story hot or was it not?
First of all, let me say, who amongst us, 20 or 30 shots in, doesn't bust our head through a wall and say party time? All right. All right, maybe I've been conditioned over a lifetime of watching hour-long commercial television dramas. You know, you take out the commercials and you got 41, 42 minutes of story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now watching Netflix, and there's a dozen Netflix originals I really enjoy, and I'm talking about outside of the Marvel ones, but they're all like 58 to 61 minutes long, and it seems like they're about 15 minutes too damn long. They're stretching shit out. They could be a lot tighter. That's what I'm getting out of this book. They used way too many pages to tell the story they told, and just wasted far too many panels. Oh man, this was a train wreck. But I like the point you made, Kenny, because I was thinking the same thing. Even though it says Red Skull on the cover, I had no idea this cat was a Red Skull.
Yeah.
And when he's doing his little monologuing here, and I love how comic book villains feel the need to narrate their lives, all right?
Yeah.
But I was really feeling it. Oh, how exhilarating it is to wake up in the morning and take a handful of lives. Really gets the old heart pounding. And I was like, what? I did a double take when I read that.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, that's wicked cool. And then he goes on to talk about how he wants to destroy America from the inside. And I was really intrigued because I love a good human villain, because at this point I don't really know he's a Red Skull. But my whole deal is people don't scare me. I'm not scared of people. When I'm watching a horror movie, if it turns out to be a regular human, I'm really disappointed. But, little haunted girls like in The Ring, oh, that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Or, some reason that the Walking Dead are inhabiting the earth, that just creeps me the hell out. So it was really cool. I was thinking, oh man, he's just a normal guy and he's this vicious right off the bat. Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Was that on story or was that on a connection?
Something happened to the graphic there.
Whatever it was, he saw it coming.
Yeah, look at that. Well, we'll give him a moment or two to see if he comes
Yeah,
back.
he was killing it.
But what's funny as he's pointing that out, I didn't even realize that when I read it before. Let's see if I can get the page pulled up. Okay, he's coming back. Looks like, at least he's trying to. Are you back with us, my friend?
Yeah, I can hear y'all. If y'all can hear me.
Yep, you're good. Continue on, my friend.
All right, yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm on my phone and my iPad here, and it's not the best technical solutions. But no, I like the idea. It was a solid idea, but it just wasn't executed very well. So I would give this in the hands of a modern writer like Hickman or even Byrne in this time period. Byrne could have taken this idea and did just wonders with it. But I can't give it any higher than a 2, y'all.
2 it is.
That's fair.
Seems fair enough, though. It's pretty sad state of affairs when they give you more story and then you give it a 2. It's like usually it's the other way around. There's something lacking, but
yeah, that's a good point though. Of in the hands of a more capable writer, the overall story is kind of intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, at the end of it, I think that kind of is in line with me. Like at the end of it, overall, I was like, all right, the story was cool, but I didn't enjoy reading it, if that makes sense.
No, it's kind of the same. It was weird, as I was going to say. I was going to point out while he was saying that when Red Skull's giving his big speech of how he's going to destroy America within, he's by himself. He's talking out loud. It's not even a thought bubble. It's like, why did you do it like that? I don't understand. Who's he talking to? Is he crazy? I knew it was Red Skull right away, though, just because of the way he was chewing on the cigarette holder and all that. I figured it was him.
And the hands behind like that. That is Nazi pose there, a famous Red Skull pose from throughout time. So that's what I knew. That panel right there.
And for those who haven't read it, basically what Unruly Simeon's about talking about, that line he says about taking a handful of lives to get you awake in the morning. basically speaking, we saw Taskmaster earlier. Taskmaster is giving some of his flunkies over for Red Skull to practice on. Red Skull has a different way of practicing than most people. He actually just kills all 5 of the guys. So, yeah, that's a hell of an exercise session, and he does that a couple times a week apparently. So, good times. But all right, so that is a score from the Graders Notes crew, but we still have another grader to go. So, you in the chat, if you please put your score out there, we'll go ahead and tabulate it up and see how it lines up with what we got. In the meantime, we'll do a little bit of rapping.
Yeah. What are those 2 books you have there, Roger? Those 2 cat books?
Well, the 300 is where the Red Skull was ostensibly killed. You notice that throughout the story, he does reference that he doesn't believe that this is the Red Skull pulling the strings, because he held him in his arms when he died, and he has a strong belief that he did. But that's one of those things that I take. I just don't buy it, because the Red Skull is impossible to kill. I mean, Cap has buried him. He's essentially disintegrated, and he still comes back. So why Cap is so incredulous that this is the Red Skull with all the evidence? It's a little bit of a stretch. And this is where Steve Rogers gave up being Captain America because of. It's a long story, but because the governmental essentially belief that he was no longer somebody that could follow the ideals of the politics, not America as a whole. So and this has happened before, by the way. This is not the first time he's given up Captain America identity. He did it back in the early 70s in the Nixon administration, and that was a whole nother secret empire plot. But this is the issue that said, "Hey, I'm out," and then he later becomes the captain.
Thank you for that breakdown.
Sure.
Not letting me change here. There it goes. Cool. But yeah, that Cap 300 is a great book. For those who haven't read that one too, that's really kind of iconic, because you think it's actually going to be the end, but you know how it is in comics, even with the human characters.
It's never the end. It's never
you can't lose his number one.
Yeah.
But it's really cool.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that it again. You're not going to kill your main nemesis. Like Batman is always going to have the Joker, right? I mean, except for that that alternate reality in the Dark Knight reality. But he's always going to have him, because he's just too good of an antithesis. And that's the same thing with Red Skull. Although I will say, in this issue, they sort of kind of lessened the Nazi aspect of him and more the nihilist aspect of him, which I think was a kind of a progression in the time, because at this point the war had been over 40 years, I think. So I think in that sense they were a little bit more progressive. But yeah, he's too good a villain to get rid of like that. Yeah.
And for comics, 50 issues is a pretty long time to die, I guess, for comics.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 300.
Yeah, that's 4 years or so. Yeah.
But they're so diametrically opposed. That's what people find fascinating usually in a villain and a hero. And it's kind of interesting is the Red Skull did start downplaying the Nazi stuff, and I think there's even some stories later on where he's like, it's time to leave that ideology behind and move on, because he thought he was even superior to that. That's just how narcissistic this guy is,
Yeah.
He wasn't only Adolf's like he wanted to surpass Adolf basically in history books and all. So, but okay, I think we got some scores in.
All
if
right.
we go ahead and like to tabulate, last chance to put your score in and be heard.
You ready, Kenny?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Joe Bag of Sevens 3, Bake 3, Tim 2.5, Thomas Wayne. I didn't read it, but from what I read, what was said 1, 2. I don't like wordy. I don't know. Is that a 1 or a 2? We'll give him a 1.5, Kenny. How's that?
Okay.
Jason comes in with a 3. Steve 2.5. Russ 3.5. And that extra 0.5 is for the pie. Good one. Russ, you're on fire tonight, buddy. Immortal Biggie Shack with a 3. Scott Neely puts in a pie, 3.14. So we'll give him a 3. There's too many smart guys in this chat for me. Steve Whiting, how you doing, buddy? 2.5. And that's it.
Okay. Well, that's easy to do my division on. So I guess that's smack a 2.75. we'd round that
3
up to 3. Yeah.
3. All right. I'm still shooting
3
100.
stories. Yeah, I know. Look at that. Medrog's on fire tonight.
Yeah. Got a hot hand tonight.
I'm fanning myself. It's so hot in here.
So either average or just a little bit better than. So I guess that's indicative of decent at the very least, right? So
I'd say that's fair. Again, the dialogue, I really didn't care for it. Like you guys said, it was a little too much, diarrhea of the pen here. I mean, it just, a lot of parts could have been truncated. It could have been truncated and gotten the point across all the better. But they wanted to charge you $1.75 for something, so they had to make. Grunwald really stretched it out. Yeah, that's all. That's all thing I can think of.
It does say supersized issue there, so I couldn't disappoint. They should put some more action scenes in there, though. But anyway, so let's get on something maybe a little more prosaic, and that will be the interior art. So looks like maybe a slight improvement over the cover. I don't know. We'll have to see. But let's go ahead and start off with something new. Mr. Simeon, what was your take on the interior artwork displayed within?
All right, so I feel that it is incumbent upon me, since Miracle is not here, to play the role of curmudgeon and really be harsh on this. All right, look, there's whenever this guy can get away with it, there's nothing in the background. It's just solid color.
Mm-hmm.
His faces are okay. His drawing of the people is semi decent. But do you see anything interesting standing out? It looks like a freaking storyboard for a B movie to me. I mean, the fight scenes, this was okay, watching Red Skull turn. And the later fight scene was decent. But other than that, it's just boring as hell. And I always like the little, oh, look, we'll show that he's moving by coloring this in a paler shade. That's a great comic gimmick. I don't know, man. I'm just not the backup story. It was Byrne. It was brilliant. I mean, as far as the penciling goes, but this guy, he must have been able to meet deadlines. Is the only reason he was hired. Which I understand the industry could use more of today is someone that can meet a deadline. But I'd almost rather wait 2 or 3 months and get good art, because this just ain't it for me, y'all. Just not even a little bit. Yeah, I'm just gonna go full on. I'm full on Miracle. You never go full Miracle. And give it a 1.0.
Whoa! Wow.
1.0. Wow. The harshness begins. Yeah, you definitely channeled your inner Canadian there.
Yeah, definitely channeling the Miracle guy. Yep.
Were you slugging down Crown Royal before the stream, or was it?
Not in many, many moons, sir.
Just if you're gonna completely channel them, you gotta channel them right. So, Kenny, what's your take on interior art and pencils? I mean, pencils, colors, inks. How did it all look inside? Was it a calliope of sound inside?
Pencil, colors, and ink. Oh my!
Complete slag and draw.
I could use my visual aid for this one, Mr. Gino. So it started out strong with a bold Speedo full page, and that drawing's okay. Like the sense I got from reading this was, I don't know who this guy is, this artist, but I can tell that he knows the biz. Like, he does a lot of the I don't know if I'd call them comic book tricks, but he knows how to lay out a page. Like, he does a lot of the little bit outside of the panel trick. He does the, with the Red Skull guy doing the somersault, Unruly said, he's got the faded versions behind him to illustrate the somersault move. He's got the little tricks here and there. He gets rid of in this top page with Cap looking shocked, or Walker looking shocked up top. He gets rid of the border and leaves it white and stuff. So I'm like, all right, this guy's been around a while because he knows all these little tricks. but I don't feel like he is a particularly creative guy, you know, because I do agree that none of the pages, if you look at them on their own as a piece of art, because you should be able, a comic book page should be interesting and aesthetically pleasing on a panel to panel basis as you're reading the story. But when you look at a page from a distance, it should look like its own piece of art. Like I don't think the original art pages are flying off the shelf for this book. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of the facial expressions in this book. I don't think he, you know, like when he's catching the pie, he gives Cap like a really goofy face. All these nameless guys on this page, I don't know. I'm big on facial expressions in book. I can forgive a lot on art if someone's really nailing expression, and this guy's not. But again, he knows how to draw a comic. Like, I don't know, the way that Cap is suiting up here, putting his boots on, his gloves, steps out the room. I don't know. He knows how to lay that sequential scene out. The sneaking scenes I'm big fans of. So I got to say, I like how the writer handled it and the artist did. I think those are cool. Like on this page, the silhouette of Cap sneaking across the blinded woman of justice statue. Very nice. When he finally decided to put a background in, he did a good job on that one. Just showing the camera in that panel down there. That was a cool panel. Just showing the camera and you see Cap's silhouette in the distance. That was cool. Where's this one? I got to give my boy props for this one. Let me make sure this shows up. So in this scene where the Red Skull clone guy is exhaling his smoke, he wrote the word Kirby in the smoke. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's pretty badass.
There are a few others too. I'll show you later.
Oh, really? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I dug that. When I saw that, I was like, oh, this guy's all right. But, you know, like, look at this page here. Here's 4 examples of facial expressions across the top here. And I don't know. I just don't. They just seem generic to me. What else did I put in my notes? Oh, lazy backgrounds for sure. We know that. Lazy backgrounds. But one thing you can't say about this book is that there's no action. You don't go many pages without there being some kind of action scene. And one of the Captain Americas doing somersault flips and guns firing off and heads smashing through walls, party time. It's fairly consistent with action. And he lays it out decent. But, you know, nothing. It's like serviceable, man. This thing's got serviceable written on it. Yeah, he knows a little tricks here and there, but I don't think he's the most innovative guy. This guy strikes me as like a lunch pail deadline meter, brother. You know, I think Anuli's right on the mark with that. So, I gave this. I went down the middle with it. I gave it a 2.5.
2.5, the epitome of serviceable there.
Yeah.
Seems fair enough, and some valid criticisms there, and some recognition of some decent stuff within. So I like that. Right down the middle, 2.5. Well, let's see if the gentleman directly beneath you, and that's in virtual space only, would agree. So, Mr. Metarod, what's your take on the interior artwork inside? Is this better than the story, better than the cover, or is it his own animal?
It's very inconsistent, is what I would say, first off. There are, again, you know, it's with this issue, it's almost like you take 1 step forward, 2 back, and then 2 forward again, and then 1. You know, there are good aspects, and then there's some that are just detract from it, right? Like, for example, like, look at the rib cage here of this guy. It looks so odd. It's like the ribs are protruding almost like out the back, you know, like there's some kind of extension. They're very odd looking ribs there, especially on that side.
That's the big lats.
I mean, yeah, it's really big, but it's protruding to the front. That's a problem. So again, sometimes the characters look bigger than each other. Other times they look about the same size. Like here, he looks absolutely like Giant Man there. The way he's stretched out like that. I understand the illusion he's trying to get to, but it's not really proportional to the aspect ratio. But I agree. I think the action scenes are actually pretty well done. I like the way that he does the fluidity of the changes from the jump here, and how he puts it in a washed out tone, and then here a much clearer. Unfortunately, you're right about the backgrounds. They are atrocious. They're barely there, and then when they are there, they're very almost like you're looking at it through a shimmering glass. There's not a lot of detail there. Again, I do like this pose here. This is the one that sort of said, this is the Red Skull. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but it led me to believe that this was the Red Skull. And yeah, that thing with the smoke is funny, because I looked at it, and he has Simon in a few of them, and he must be a Mets fan too, because in one of them, hold on, let me see it. Let me show it to you here.
Or was he got Dwight Gooden and frickin' Smoke? What?
He's got no, but he does have. Let's see, where is that? Right.
3.
Where is that? I can't find it now. But here's another. No, that's the one you said about Kirby. That's true. But he has one where he says "Go Mets." Hold on a second. There it is. There it is. There it is, right there. Go Mets.
Oh. Huh.
And yeah, he does have a lot of clever little things in here, which I like. The transition here to the red face is not well done. These two are too close together. It should have been a much more stark transition. So that minus points there. But some of the fight scenes are so well done, and I enjoyed them quite a bit. That kind of threw me a little bit. And maybe I gave this a little higher score than I normally would, because again, the anatomy is just a little weird. Sometimes John Walker looks like almost twice the size of Captain America, but then at the end, they're like about the same size. So it's very inconsistent, as I said. Let me see where that Simon smoke is, so I can show you that one. I should have marked these so that you would know. Was it here? Oh, that's Kirby. Oh, drat. I should have marked these. But I don't know. I really think that with a little more consistency, a little more details, especially in the actual penciling layout, this could have been a very well done issue, because I think the inking is okay. I think Milgram did a serviceable job, maybe a little bit better than serviceable. I'm still dying because I cannot find that Simon smoke. But to me, I give it a little bit higher grade than Kenny, just because I am such a sucker for these great fight scenes and the onomatopoeia and the little hidden messages in the smoke. I think those were, just cute, and to me, it's very original. Also, I did like this page right here where he finally turned into the Red Skull. I think that expression, Kenny, is very well done. Right there.
That one's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give this a 3 overall, just because I think the fight scenes were so good. He had the little homages in there. He did have a good bits in the fighting. If the backgrounds were a little tighter and his anatomy was more consistent, I would have given it a little higher. But overall, I give it a 3, and I will find that and show you guys when I do.
All right, 3 coming in hot, so just a little above serviceable. All right, so we're trending upward now. I guess it only leaves me, and since I'm running the stream, mine is the only voice that matters, so all of the grades are now canceled. But let's get inside this book, shall we? So, okay, before I can grade this, I'm going to give this book a 3, all right? There's some really good stuff in here, and there's some poor stuff. but I'm gonna cut this artist some break. How many pages? There's over 60 pages. Well, that's not all though. Byrne does like the last, I think 6 or 7 pages or something like that. But it's a ton of stuff. There's so many panels in this book. I mean, this is just typical fare. I mean, there's so much going on. You don't have time to do backgrounds and all that. If he only had the regular deadline for this book, I hope they gave him some more time for it. But it was a ton of work to do. I mean, like you said, they would show 4 panels side by side of just the face changing. So like that's a ton of artistry you have to go through. So I won't hold as much of the art against the guy if he didn't get so much into the backgrounds and details. And he did go through.
Oh, I'm sorry. Page 7 is where that bottom right panel is where you can see the Simon.
Let's see if I can find it here. Oh yeah, there it is. If I can get my camera to focus.
Simon. What do you think the Simon's in reference to?
Oh, you
Joe
don't
Simon.
know. You don't know Joe Simon, the creator, along with Kirby of Cap. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
One of the original artists on Cap, man.
Ah, Joe Simon. Okay.
Yeah,
you always learn something on Graders Notes. I know I do.
See, we're learning something every day. I mean, he even has. Oh, here it is, right here. In fact, I think there's this little splash pages they have of some of the Captain America stuff.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
There's an extra be, but yeah. So there's just a ton of work to do, man. I mean, he had stuff like this in the center, flyouts. Just it was a monumental job. So, like I said, I'll cut some slack on backgrounds, and he did do a lot of work on facial expressions. And damned if the fight scenes aren't amazing. Say what you want about how it looks, like artistic or from a technical standpoint, but I think as a reader standpoint, this looks amazing, man. There's just so much going on. You got spillover to different panels a little bit. There's just constant movement when they get together and they're fighting, and it really kind of epitomizes the fighting styles of these two, with Cap being the more graceful, agile fighter, and the bull in the china shop, Mr. Walker, just smashing everything in sight, but he's still an athlete and dangerous. What kind of fails this book? The ink's fine. It's the colors. I don't know if this was a printing process. I'm going to try to find some examples, but I don't think my camera will focus on it too well. But there's so much bleed over all over this book. And there's lines that aren't completely filled in, and the color doesn't reach to the edge. It's just awful for a book of this magnitude. And to see it get through the editing process like that, I have to believe that had to be the printing. Something was misaligned or something, because it's not everywhere, but it's definitely noticeable throughout. There's a really cool scene back here. I like this one a lot, where Cap is doing his famous thing right here, where he's throwing his shield away after being taunted by the U.S. agent for hiding behind it. And Cap says, "The hell with that! I'm going to beat you with my 2 hands." But then you see like the video recording of them fighting, or of Captain America fighting the Watchdogs in the background. I think that looks really cool. Yeah. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. But so I'm going to give this a whole lot of extra, just because of not only those little smoke things is so awesome that I didn't notice it the first time I read it, and the fight scenes are just incredible. It helps bump it up. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 3. Solid, if unremarkable. Just, this guy's a workhorse, man, to put out this much material in one book. So it must have been exhausting. So 3 could have been better, but that's just about any book. So better than serviceable.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm with you.
See, great minds think alike there. So with that, let's hand over the scoring responsibilities to the 5th grader. So what say you, good audience? Was this an amazing book for the eyes, or was this a little more something that should be read in Braille? You can't you can't even stomach the sight of it. This is like a Liefeld on a bender, No. So put your scores in now. We will tabulate shortly.
Mr. Miracle is in the chat, by the way. Our buddy is in the chat. And
welcome,
he said,
Dave. Welcome.
I was not impressed with this comic. It was so wordy, and most of the story made no sense. That is Miracle, quintessential Miracle right there.
I know, he's man a few words, but those words will count, and so will my actions. All right, there's Batman reference there for those of you who don't remember. But thank you, Billy D. Yeah, it was wordy, and but it was also picture-y. As much dialogue was in this book, there's a picture to go with it, So, man, it was, the letter must have gotten carpal tunnel doing this. Everybody was they must have had a team doing some of this stuff. I can't imagine just one guy running all the pencils and layouts here by himself.
The letterer did a heck of a job, actually, in this comic, when you see all the different onomatopoeia and the different emphasis, bubbles, etc. He did a pretty darn good job. I mean, like you're right. He must have gotten carpal tunnel after this one, because I mean it just goes on and on and on. And he also, I think, did the Burn story in the back, so it's all the more.
Oh, that was just incredible. You know, the only book I can think of that was as word to use this one was that Suicide Squad, number one I read. That was pretty close. It just wasn't as long.
Yeah. War and Peace is a good analogy for this.
Oh man, I just kept going. I kept waiting for something like a Leon Uris novel. You just keep waiting for something to happen.
Yep.
And 600 pages later, I'm still waiting for it. But
yep.
All right, so last chance to get your grades in. We're gonna go ahead and start tabulating. Kenny, if you have the abacus handy, Mr. Roger will probably read off to you in his great announcer's voice.
Let's give him another
Sorry,
couple seconds here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I had one too actually. While
Okay.
Mr. Roger was talking.
Are we at abacus mode yet? Soon?
We are
just
ready
about,
for the
yeah.
abacus.
Okay.
Just about. Yep.
Got it.
All my friends are at Ace Cafe. All my motorcycle riding buddies.
Last
are out
call,
riding without
guys,
me.
for the story here. Let's give him another. All right. That's the next one. All right,
Okay.
here we go.
Yes.
Let's see. Reboot. 3.5 with Joe Bag of 7, Steve Whiting 3, Comic Collector 3, Thomas Wayne 2, Mark Knapp 3.5, Mr. Miracle. I give the art. It was weird art 1.5. I don't know if he's talking about the art there or the story. 3 for Biggie, 3.5 for Russ, and 3 for From Heroes to Icons.
Miracle, we're on the same page. I'm channeling you tonight, buddy.
Yeah. And it wasn't just a 350th issue, too. It was a really important issue. So you think they'd bring a heavy hitter in. Like I said, they're drowning in talent back then. But, yeah, maybe they couldn't find someone who's going to draw that many panels for what they were paying.
3 is the check rating.
All right.
All right. Man, you're going to be 100% today, aren't you?
Ooh, man. I'm going to have to play the lottery.
Winning on Grady's Notes means winning in life. So,
Winning in life.
all right. We're going to go ahead and move on to the most ephemeral portion of the show, and that's when we talk about the concept of the book. Let's see if this thing did anything new, if it brought something new to the table, or if it's just a rehash of old. So I guess I'll go ahead and lead this one off. I haven't led one off this evening. So concept. All right. So Captain America, especially during this time, did something really big on every 50th issue. So, 300, it's the end of the Red Skull. 350, it's the return of the Red Skull, and the end of Captain America or the return of Captain America. And, well, you get the idea. But it was new and it was not new in a way. In a way, it was just a rebirth of a villain, done plenty of times before. And it was a hero fight, which was popular at the time to sell, copy. And it was kind of the low-grade hero's journey in the fact that Cap was basically, he abdicated his role as Captain America and decided to work his way back into it. So there's a lot going on here. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. I wouldn't say anything here was specifically new, but they did kind of reinvent the Red Skull just a little bit, because he used to be kind of the mustache twirler a little bit. He was always a little more intelligent than the average, villain and all that, and he had big plans. But in this one, he now has a super body. Not because I'm appreciating the looks of it, but I mean, just he's basically got the super soldier serum in him now because he has a Cap clone body. And I know he's just written as a little more calculating and introspective than he was previously. So they took a character who was basically at that time around 40, 45 years old and kind of reinvented him just a little bit, which was pretty cool. Cap stayed basically the same, other than him having to earn back his suit, which he technically didn't even earn it back. John Walker kind of gave it back to him, which was, as Medrog said earlier, a little bit odd for that character. This guy, John Walker's always looking for recognition for what he's done, and they weren't going to strip him of the title of Captain America, and he just gave it away. It just didn't seem like his MO. But so the book didn't do anything too new per se, but I think it did a lot of things pretty well for a concept. Like I said, it reinvented a pretty important villainous character. It kind of reinvigorated if you will, Steve Rogers just a little bit. But I like this book a lot because it gave so much background and, well, not so much background. Well, it gave so much more of the inner workings of John Walker because he is such a flawed anti-hero that it was kind of cool to see the way his mind worked just a little bit. You know, this guy, he's basically just made of intrigue, and I don't think he's even smart enough to know it, but he is, which makes him kind of interesting. But he'll abandon anybody if he thinks they betrayed him at the drop of a hat, and he's very one-dimensional, black and white. But so is Steve Rogers, if you look at it, because he's very, you know, this is right, this is wrong. Well, in John Walker's deluded mind, he thinks he's right. So, well, that long-winded aside, I just thought it was pretty cool. They gave a lot of character building in this book, along with the fight. So nothing too new here, but I think it's one of the stronger aspects of the book. I gave it a 3.5 because they obviously went through a lot of trouble and work into really fleshing these characters out and didn't just make it a big fireworks show. So yeah, kudos to that. 3.5, better than average, I say, and especially for a bigger book. They really tried to go all out on the story. It didn't always work, but I think they tried to do some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, 3.5.
Strong, very strong.
Hopefully, I don't have my my cap-loving blinders on, but that's just kind of how I got to take it. But the more I got to reading it, everyone got their own little story here and their own little look at, which I thought was kind of nice. And I don't know, anytime you make the villain interesting is always great because there's not a whole lot of interesting villains if you get down to it. Like Dr. Doom, now Red Skull. A few of those Kingpin, those guys are interesting because they're always got machinations going on. They're not relying on brute power, So, I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool. Anyway, I'm done talking. Mr. Unruly, what was your idea about the concept of this book?
Oh, here I'm going to be a little more lenient because I think everything tied together, it was a good concept. It just, the execution was flawed in every particular, for me. But Cap is far from my favorite hero, but I love the dude, man. There's something that's just the old-fashioned morality he stands for. And what I really like in later issues, more recent ones, say the last 20 years or so, and even before then, but they couldn't really spell it out as well in the 70s, is he knows how flawed America is. He sees those flaws and loves it anyway. And that's the definition of patriotism. Patriotism to me is loving your country, and a huge duty of the patriot is to try and correct flaws when you see them, not by force, by the democratic process. And all right, I'm done waxing philosophical, but I've just always loved that about him, man. He is who he is, and he's going to believe what he's going to believe, and he doesn't care if you think it's old-fashioned or not. He owns it. And sometimes, like in Civil War, that leads him to say, "Hey, whoa, back off there, buddy. I was fighting against this kind of thing. That's what I believe in." And when those lines, I thought Civil War was interesting because the lines were drawn opposite, right? The free-willing playboy that never follows the rules comes down on the side of the government, and Captain America says, "Oh, hold on a second." But concept in this, it could have been done. It could have been handled so much better, even with a B-list writer. I'm going to go ahead and be super generous and piss Miracle off and give it a 3.
Oh boy,
that's worth the price of admission by itself.
I tell you, that was beautiful, man. That was beautiful.
Nice, well done.
They call that a coup de grace where I come from. So speaking of French, comic head, bonsoir, mon ami. Why don't you tell us what you thought about the concept of this book?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I think the flaws are mostly in the execution. I'll agree with that. The concept, because like I said before, when I was reviewing the writing, when I finished the book and realized what happened and what they were going for, I did appreciate it a bit more. So I think that's probably points for the concept, And yeah, I'm not a big Cap reader. He's never been one of my favorites either necessarily, but one thing that Captain America stories seem to have and stuff, the world you can play in with Captain America that you really don't see with a lot of other superheroes is just because he's Captain America, you have a lot of opportunity to play in like the political government intrigue story space, you know? And I like that. I like that in a story because you don't see it a lot of the time, you know, where it's like government bureaucracies and congressmen and stuff, and there's like a real political edge to it, which I think is interesting with Cap, especially when he's like in this one where he's kind of on the outs, kind of raging against the machine, and he like hung up the suit. So it does make me a little interested to see what was going on before this, to see him when he's not wearing the red, white, and blue and is like on the outs with the government. That sounds like it could be interesting. But anyway, that's not this issue. This seems to be the resolution of that. Red Skull was a badass, pretty badass villain conceptually. I liked. I guess it's a little weird that he comes back in Cap's body. That's a little strange, but I guess that's cool. Yeah, that's fine. You can tell this book is like epitome of serviceable. When I'm like, most of my things like, yeah, it's pretty good, it's pretty cool. But yes, concept better than the writing. Writing was piss poor. Overall concept was fun. A little muddy though. Even at the concept table, it's still a little muddy for my taste. I think they maybe could have streamlined this a little differently. I think what would have streamlined it is because it didn't seem like Red Skull being the clone of Cap served much of a purpose, right? Because wasn't it Walker that was going around tarnishing his name, not so much the Red Skull?
Mm-hmm.
Or did I read that?
He was behind the scenes. He was behind the scenes tarnishing.
So he was behind the scenes shitting on his name. Okay, I can see that. All right, yeah. See, the concept's pretty solid. So I'll give it a 3, above average.
Nice.
3 it is. Yeah, it was kind of. I kind of picked up on the fact that it was appealing to Red Skull too, because not only am I going to bring your country down from the inside, I'm going to do it with your body. It's like
that's
even
pretty,
more insult to injury.
Pretty bad. That's pretty menacing shit. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Well, speaking of menacing, we have our most violent and vigorous grader coming up, Mr. Medrod.
Well,
so why don't you lay your vitriol down upon us and let us quaver in fear?
I spout venom constantly. This book to me is the epitome of biting off more than you can chew. It had a grandiose idea, but it just didn't have the chops to bring out that message in the most cogent way. But it still tasted good. Okay, so I'm very torn that way. Now, you see, unlike you guys, Captain America is one of my favorite characters because he epitomizes the idealism behind America. The inclusiveness, the freedom aspects, the fact that we have the opportunity to be so much more, not than just a human being surviving. We can thrive here. And in Civil War, you can see how he sided with the freedom aspect of that, not the security aspect, because that's who he's about. I mean, government should be there to serve the people, not the other way around. And he, I knew you would agree with that. And I think he is sort of like the everyman that is there to sort of let everybody know that there is an ideal that we still stand for. And the fact that he's not a killer. And again, juxtapose that with John Walker, who is sort of like the ends justify the means, not Cap. The ideals justify the means. And this issue sort of encapsulates the diverse philosophies and the convergence of the end product, which is they both loved America, but if the ends justify the means, then you're not talking about America. you're talking about something else. And okay, you're right. I'm waxing philosophical way too much. But what I'm saying here is that the concept, I think, was really solid. The fact that it was this issue, and the fact that they put the Red Skull as the villain from behind the scenes, kind of reminisces me like the new Star Wars movie. Did they really have that villain in mind 2 years ago? You know, did they really have Palpatine in mind when they did the first Star Wars movie? I don't think so. I think that was sort of something that they did to clean up a mess. And I kind of get that vibe here, but it wasn't that big of a mess. But still, the concept was there to sort of clean up, tie up those loose ends. You know, we learn about the Scourge, and that he's not just one individual, but is an organization. Same thing with the Watchdogs. How were they funded? Well, now we know. It kind of is a little bit too convenient there. So I think the concept is solid. I think it's muddy, though. Using Comic Head 84's words, it could have been a little bit better explained throughout the previous issues and how it converts in this issue. But overall, I think you're right. This is a John Walker story, and then Cap sort of coming in stating that he is greater than the costume and the shield. He is the ideals of a people. And that can never be quashed, no matter what costume he has on. And that's ultimately a concept that I agree with. So all that encapsulation, I agree with most of you. I can't give it more because it was so muddily drawn and just sort of thrown out there, I think, sort of as an afterthought, and then sort of reconstructed during the story. And I don't appreciate that. I like concepts that are clear, concise, and executed from the beginning plan, right? So overall, I do give this concept a 3.
All right, a 3. So some good, there's some bad, but overall, I'd say you thought a little better of it than average, right? So 3
yes,
is.
I almost gave it a 3.5. If it wasn't because of, I think that there's shenanigans, using one of Unruly's terms there, going on there at the end, sort of convenience. But otherwise, I would have given it a 3.5, but I'm still suspicious, so I knocked it back down to a 3.
All right, 3 it is. So, all right, with all those grades out there, it's time for you, the 5th grader, to get back in there and give us our final score, the most important score of the evening. So go ahead and cast your votes, and we'll sit here and rap a little bit about the story and concept and all that good stuff. Now, Kenny, look like you're ready to just spit something out there. What do you got?
And stay tuned, chat, because at the end, I'm gonna put up 2 books because it's my choice next. So I'm gonna need your help, guys. I'm gonna put up 2 books, and let's let the chat choose between the 2. Because I don't think we got a resounding consensus back behind the scenes, right? So let's put them both up and let the chat weigh in. A or B, brother.
Roger that.
Right,
Yeah, we'll do that when we do the wrap up.
Wait for that.
Oh, yeah, we're looking forward to it. I didn't
2
really
very
get too much time to even think about it. I was too busy juggling there at the end. I'll say this, as far as like maybe overall concept of this book, if you were a first-time Cap reader, just for some reason, newer comic book collector, you pick this book up, you will come out of this book knowing basically who everyone is very well. You'll know who Cap is, what he stands for the most part, even though he's probably the least like put together character in this book, which is surprising. Mm-hmm. But you're gonna know who Super Patriot is, and you're really gonna know who the Red Skull is. So I think it's pretty cool that they went through such pains to, I don't know, bring it to the new reader maybe. But Cap's not really a book for a new reader.
I think this is a tough one for if someone was like, "Hey, what's a good jumping on point for Cap?" This is a tough one, man. There's a lot going on. There's 3 people basically you could say are Cap. You know, there's the Skull clone, there's Walker, Cap's in a different suit. I feel like you know, I have some knowledge of Cap, so I could hang with it, but it's tough.
Yeah.
See, my thing too.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I agree that this was heavy lifting here for a reader, and if this was your first read of Cap, you're thinking, man, this, you know, it's like you were saying, Gino, this is, you know, War and Peace. This is Dostoevsky. This is, Kafka stuff. I mean, it's getting into the, almost the metaphysical realm at some point with the symbolism and the smoke and the shadowing and so forth. So it's heavy lifting. It was not an easy read, to be sure. But I know, for a Cat fan who, again, that's why I propose always, don't just get a key issue, get a run to really get to the details and to the real gist of the character, because that is what dictates if that character is somebody you can relate to. And you're right. If this was the only one I read, I'd be like, wow, I'm going to have to do a lot of research here, So no, this is definitely not a good introductory issue at all.
The one thing I will say, and I wish you could see more of them, was I'd love to see more books on John Walker, because I find him such a cool character. I think I probably read more into him than it was actually written, just for the fact that he's like, he wants to be good so bad, and he wants to do the right thing. He just doesn't know how, and he's like the 12-year-old or 14-year-old kid who's given superpowers and wants to be a good guy. He just doesn't have an off switch. He tries too hard, but he's just so powerful that he just winds up causing way more destruction and mayhem than he ever actually fixes. So I always thought that was cool, of someone who wanted to be good so bad but was so bad at doing it.
Have you read his stuff at West Coast Avengers?
I got some of it when he was on there.
Yeah, he and Hawkeye were just constantly butting heads. Yeah.
One of my favorite issues, I think it's issue 47, is when they have their big fight, and U.S. Agent leaves after that. But yeah, so he was a cool dynamic. He was a wild card, and I think, though, on that note, I think all of our grades are in. If Kenny, the keeper of the sacred numbers, can help us out here, we'll go ahead and read them off.
All right. 3 from Russ, 3.5 from Joe Bag of Sevens. You've stuck in there the whole time, Joe. Thanks. Steve Whiting, 3. Thomas Wayne, 1. Whoa. Rough. Mr. Miracle comes in with a 3. That's surprising.
Hey.
Simeon, you seem to be channeling him pretty well. Biggie Shack, 2.5. And that is it.
Okay.
It always gets less toward the end.
Yeah. 3.
3.
Okay. Oh, man.
Wow.
You did it. Is that your first 100?
No, I think I've had one or two others. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I've only had one.
We still got overall, yeah?
We still got overall. That could be the downfall.
Well, are we doing the aggregate for them? It's going to be a 3. So I can't already tell you what it is. It's 2.5 and rest of them are 3s. So
are you telling Roger so you know ahead of time what you need to make it a streak, Roger?
Well, just in case you think I'm cheating, there's the overall.
Oh, look at that. Don't run from our boy Roger tonight.
He was down there furiously scribbling while we were talking. So, okay, we're going to go ahead and do the overall wrap-up of the book, and then we will do quick announcements for the next show and talk about what's going on with the channels, and then we'll call it a night. So let's go ahead and start with Unruly. Unruly, why don't you give us your overall take on this book and score?
Overall, we've already all said it very well. It could have been so much better. The one thing that really pisses me off is apparently they went to some trouble to set the Rogers clone Red Skull as, having some power and money and a secret identity, and he's controlling various political figures, and then they just throw it away in this issue. It could have been gone on more for me. And I just like to say, when you're talking about Walker and he's not afraid to, take a life. I think, for those of us brought up on comic book morality, it's the good guys don't kill, right? With very rare exceptions. I mean, look how much trouble it's given various heroes over the years that they won't just flat out snap the neck of their, main villain. But I take it Walker has a military background like Cap. He works for the government. And Gino, maybe you can talk to this, but what I know from being a ex-military is you need those guys. You need those guys that are right there on the line of decent human being and psycho that aren't afraid to kill and do it quickly. The whole trick is keeping them in line during the when they're not actually, you know, in a war situation. And you don't want to just muster them out the minute the war's over, because you need guys like that to train the next batch of dudes that come along. So I've never and listen, I'm not Billy Badass Stone Cold Killer. No, not by a long shot. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying is I appreciate that we have those guys when we need them. And so my overall score, I know I've been going low all night, but I'll just shoot right down the middle and give it a 2.5.
Nice.
All right, that's a serviceable grade right there. So hey, we can all get behind
How many
that.
is that, Kenny? Have you been keeping track?
No, but
It's at least 5.
I
Oh,
think
it's
so.
been
Gray Man's
okay.
usually on serviceable duty, but he's not with us.
Oh, he's
I
not
know.
with us
Where
tonight.
is
Oh,
that
he
guy?
told me he was going to be here. He must have fallen asleep.
Just pretty late. I guess I give him some slack. So,
Yeah.
all right. So 2.5 right down the middle. So Kenneth, what's your take on the overall score here? Are you going with aggregate, or are you going to kind of just make up a number out of your head?
Let's see. I didn't write them all down. I freestyled one of them. So I'm gonna go with a gut overall. I think that, you know, the cover was you know, a little bit of a letdown. The art inside was pretty middle of the road. Had some highlights, I thought, some interesting moments, but I don't think it was very artistic endeavor. You know, I definitely get Deadline vibes from this. I think Unruly was very astute with that. And in the writing, this guy could have used a Deadline. Maybe if he was closer to Deadline, he would have chilled out with that pen, man. So anyway, I'm pretty much gonna give this one. I guess it comes down to if I think this book overall is average, above average, or below average. Because I think it deserves either somewhere between a 2 and a 3. And, you know, I'll give it I'll say it's average. It's 2.5. I don't want to say it's below average. It's an average comic. 2.5. Bam.
Nice.
2.5 coming in hot again. Oh man, we got 2 serviceables in a row. What's this mean for for Caesar? I don't know. So, Mr. Medog, are you going to break this impasse here? What's your idea on the overall score of this book?
Yeah, well, I did give it a 3, as I stated before. And again, this book is, to me, it's frustrating in the sense that it could have been, you know, so much better. If a few tweaks here and there. I know I say that a lot, but I always like to see potential in things, in people, in concepts, in ideals. I see potential in most everything, but it has to be, you know, it's like that marble stone that you see there, and it's just a rock, but a sculptor, you know, sees a David, or they see a Venus, you know, and all they got to do is chip off the rough edges. Well, you know, this is kind of what I see here. I mean, I enjoyed it. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. At the end of the day, like Kenny was saying, when I finished it, I was more satisfied than the journey was applauding, but the destination was, you know, more like Nirvana. So to me, I have to give it more than serviceable, because I did enjoy it. I think that a lot of the concepts, the fight scenes, you know, again, what they're doing with the Red Skull, changing him from somebody who was essentially a octogenarian, and now reimagining him as a physical equal to Captain, to Steve Rogers, you know, that brings now a new life, you know, no pun intended, into this character, because now he has, you know, not only does he have the mental and the sinister aspect, but now he has a physical aspect to him that he didn't have before. So, you know, I give a lot of credit to the overall plot and ideals and concept, but the dialogue, it really was, you know, like you know, if I don't know if any of you guys have been like a truck driver, or, you know, you drive these long distances and you just halfway through, you're just dying to get to the end. Well, that's kind of how I got here. The journey kind of was troubling, but the payoff was actually pretty good. So I'm not going to go over all my grades, but overall, I think that it was better than average. I enjoyed it. I still think it moved the story, the character, and the universe forward an increment. So overall, I give it a 3.
3 it is. All right. Thank you, sir. So getting a little above the average here. So let's see if we can skew that mean just a little bit further. So I guess I'll go ahead and move on to the overall. I'm going to go ahead and give this book a 3 as well. I wanted to go higher for nostalgia factor, but I just couldn't. I gave this book 3.5 for the cover. There was some cool stuff going on there, and after you read the book, you get a little more appreciation for it. But it was kind of blah in a way, and it could have been much better. I think overall they could have got some better art in this book for such an important seminal issue. For the interior art, I gave it a 3.0. It was actually good in spots, poor in spots. There was just a ton of it. So I give some credence to the amount of work that actually had to go into it to get it all out the door, and the fact that there's some really, really, really good action fight scenes in there. For the story, I gave it a 3.5. I was fascinated by the John Walker segments, just because I do like that character so much. And if nothing else, the characters were fleshed out. So you get to learn about these characters in depth, whether you like it or not. So way too verbose and all that. And like, they could have just said, Red Skull could have said, I'm going to take over your country from within. He didn't have to go into every step of how he's going to do it. And then they have the politicians basically parroting what he's saying back. So it's like, there's like whole pages of nothing but Senate committee dialogue. It's like, oh, this is rough sometimes. So that got a little weaker score. For the concept, I gave a 3.5. It was very cool. Once again, see, one of John Walker's big hangups is that his parents were killed, right? Mm-hmm. I think, was it the Scourge or no, it was the Watchdogs. I think it was they killed his parents. Yeah. And in this issue, we find out there's a Red Skull who commanded it to be so. This is all like basically John Walker is the creation of the Red Skull, And so I think they just kind of did a little retconning there, just for ease of writing. But so I just found it fascinating, and then to see what happens after he's told who is responsible technically for his parents' death, then he just goes completely berserk. And it's like, before that, he had some semblance of control, and when he killed people, it was kind of accidental, except when he killed the initial watchdogs that killed his folks. But this one, he just goes in there, and there's room full of bad guys, and just kills every one of them, and makes no bones about it. And he's going to kill Cap, I think, if he gets a hold of him, because he's almost in a berserker rage at that point. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was pretty cool to see the character like that. And if nothing else, I think that was worth the price of admission. So I gave that a little higher score. Overall, I'm going to give this a 3. The book does a lot good, but it sure can't beat some of the shortcomings. And by shortcomings, I mean longcomings, by just so much dialogue to get through. For so much action in this book, you wouldn't imagine there's so much dialogue. Like, there's more dialogue in like 2 pages of the book than the entire Name War #1. So, and Byrne got Name War #1 just moving, This one is a chore to get through if you want to read every panel. I found myself skipping some of them, honestly. When they were doing the Senate subcommittee meetings, it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Just move on. You don't read comics for this stuff. We all have C-SPAN. But anyway, long story short, I'm going to give this just a little above serviceable at a 3. I'm going to take my rose-tinted glasses off for my cat fanboyism and just be honest about it. Hey, Alex, Big Blue, I haven't seen you in a little bit. Thanks for stopping in. But yeah, 3.0 for me, just slightly above serviceable.
That's a 6 one.
Yeah.
All right, so the aggregate for me should be a 3 for the chat. I mean, it's 2.5 and the rest are 3s. So
okay, good job,
Chat. Unless you want them to re-vote, we can, but. Sorry, almost
I think it actually makes sense for the overall to be done like you're saying, because if it's an overall chat grade, sometimes we don't have all the amount of people
right
in the end that we do in the beginning, so it's not really an aggregate of everyone.
Yeah, sometimes we only have 3 or 4 votes at the end. Yeah.
All right, so there's the book.
Biggie gives it a 3 anyway.
Thanks, Biggs. That man's got scoring in the blood, man.
I tell you.
All right. So there it is. I'd say this book is about as close to serviceable as an overall score as we've had on the show. It's pretty close. We got 2.5s and 2 3s. So basically 2.75 you get down to it. So anyway, not a bad read. Just I expected more of it, unfortunately, and I just didn't get it. Actually, we got too much of it. So for those of you who've been hanging out, we have one more treat for you. You get to pick the next book. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the reins over to Mr. Comic 84 for just a moment, and he's going to give you the selections. So please,
Cap 350 just got great graders notes.
Yeah.
2 books. And what I'm going to try to do for some of my picks is go for somewhat classics that have facsimile editions available. I think that's a way that we can, maybe dig into some iconic books, and ourselves and people in the chat that like to, our faithful Graders Notes viewers can go and pick up some of these issues on the cheap and follow along with us. So with that in mind, I picked these 2 recent facsimiles for your consideration. We got The Defenders, Marvel feature, because this isn't Defenders #1, eh, Metarog? Is this?
No, but that is the first time that they came together as a team.
Boom. Marvel feature
Called The Defenders.
presents The Defenders. First time the Defenders link up. You heard them. Available now for $4.99. So that's one. And I've never read that one. And the other option is My Ward is a Junkie. You've seen this one around. This is Green Lantern, number 85. The Speedies on Dope issue. So those are your 2 choices, chat. We got a Marvel and DC representation. We got The Defenders from Marvel feature, and both iconic in their own way. An iconic team up here of the Defenders for the first time. Marvel royalty, really, these 3.
Yeah. Super powerful team.
Yeah. You don't want to mess with Defenders.
No.
And another powerful force you don't want to mess with, Smack Addiction.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
An important issue. I'm sure. I'm sure this book caused waves when it released. And it was somewhat poignant, I would think.
It's still
or was it? I don't know. I've never read it, so
I've read it a long time ago. I don't remember much about it.
Did they tactfully deal with the issue of drug addiction, or is this a joke? I don't know.
I don't know.
It's one step below reefer madness propaganda.
Yeah.
I mean, not to equate heroin with marijuana, but I mean, really.
Right.
But look at the expression on Ollie's face. That is just awesome.
Yeah. He's horrified.
Mm-hmm.
And Hal almost has like a calm, I told you so kind of face going.
Yeah, like he sees guys shooting up all the time.
Yeah, he's mainlining. He's not even messing around no more. It's funny because I'm reviewing the Star Trek Next Generation series, and I just watched Symbiosis last night, and it's basically an entire episode about drugs.
Yep.
On a planetary scale.
Yep.
But all right, there's your choices. So put your vote down there in the chat, and we will tabulate up in just a moment.
Looks like everybody.
Hey,
has
if I
put
get
in
a
Green
vote, I
Lantern.
vote Defenders.
I vote Defenders too, but it looks like everybody in the chat is going for Green Lantern. So
I'm going to abstain from this vote. I don't know. I wouldn't mind reading either one of them.
well,
but
I don't think we should count anyway. We're letting the chat decide.
I think we abstain. Let the chat decide.
I'll tell you this, man.
either
You know
one
a team
is
is strong when the weakest member is Namor. My gosh.
Yeah.
That's pre-retcon Doctor Strange. He was a monumental power, and then Savage Hulk days.
And if that wasn't good enough, and a few issues in, they get the Silver Surfer.
Yep.
So
Right.
Remember this is a team that took on the Avengers and pretty much beat them.
Hey, Rob,
the Avengers Defenders one.
Defenders was the first Marvel series I made a conscious effort to get a run of, and it started with that whole Avengers Defenders thing. I think it was in Defenders 12. I forget which Avengers issue, but I was like, hell yeah, I want more of those.
Yeah, I think it was Defenders 9 through 12, and Avengers 115 through 118, 19, something like that. Yeah.
That's actually one of the books.
By the way, that's one thing that if unfortunately it's too long to grade for us, but if anybody has the trade out there, that is a must read, because it is a quintessential Bronze Age event.
It was a huge deal at the time, a huge deal.
Oh, it was all we ever talked about in school that whole time. Yep.
Really? What, Defenders versus Avengers?
Yeah, that never happened. That just didn't happen. It's almost like the Jets beating the Colts in the Super Bowl. It just there's no way the AFL could beat the NFL, that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, speaking of that, did y'all read the reboot of the Defenders for modern times ever?
No, I never saw that.
Oh, that one, yes. Yeah, I did.
I thought reviewing this book actually is kind of interesting, even though it's Ghost Rider in there. But
yep, I did.
More, but
yeah, I do have it. Yeah.
Defenders reimagined for the '90s. You had to stick Ghost Rider in any book back then to move.
Yeah, but, again, you know how that goes, Gino. Ghost Rider, Wolverine, if they're hot at the time, stick them in a book. Everybody will float over there.
Well, looks like Green Lantern's the pick. I don't see any other. Oh, there's one Defenders in there, but nope. I guess it looks like Green Lantern. I think it's 3-2.
Looks like Green Lantern's it.
All right, so there's the books for next time.
Defenders to read regardless.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I've never dug into the Defenders. To give it a shot.
All right, so there it is. All right, so at this point, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up. I'll hand off the mic just for a few moments to each of my fellow graders here so they can tell you what's coming up in the near future on their channels. So let's go start with you, Mr. Kenneth, while you're in there stretching. That means you're ready for this solo right here.
Hold on, I got a yawn.
Oh, he is ready.
Tough day at work.
All right.
Man, so
reading that book took a lot out of me, brother.
It was heavy lifting. I told you, heavy lifting.
Yeah, it was heavy lifting. What's coming up? I don't know. To be quite honest, I don't plan too many shows nowadays aside from Graders Notes and pretty much Mega Power Hour with my buddy Biggie Shack. So I guess we'll probably run one tomorrow night, I imagine, me and Big. I got this haul to go through with you, which will be fun. And all I can say, this is really just going to be a teaser here, but major announcement coming up, a first-time event from Comic 84 and Comic 84 Channel LLC.
Cool.
Coming at you. So, stay tuned. You don't want to be sub to your boy because, there's some gears in motion. So stay tuned.
Wow. That's a teaser.
Stay tuned, we will.
Teaser.
Well, Roger, what kind of tuning we have to do for your channel? You got anything special coming up? Are we talking UHF or what, man?
UHF? Ultra high frequency? Oh, is that what that means? Ultra high frequency? Well, anyway, yeah, I got a few things in the pipeline here. Tomorrow I'm going to drop a AOK video from some guy in Massachusetts who sent me some crazy stuff.
All right.
So look for that because I think that when we talk about community and you talk about the generosity of this community, it is incumbent upon us to really state and show how that generosity is illustrated or showed. And so I'm going to be dropping that tomorrow. I usually don't do a Friday video. I'm doing it tomorrow.
Oh, I can't wait.
and then Biggie, I'm working on a video for your contest. It's going to be a little different than perhaps most videos out there because well, the limitations that I have, shall we say. But it will get done probably in a week or so. And then on Tuesday, I have, as I was telling Kenny, a very deep cut video coming on Tuesday.
Yeah.
This is penetrating the whole Earth core deep stuff. I doubt that anybody will know anything about the stuff I'm going to talk about Tuesday. Even I had to do some research on it, so look for that. And then, of course, every Thursday, I will do the contest round.
All right, so there it is. That's coming up from Mr. Medrock himself. So let's go to the guy we haven't heard from here in just a little while, Mr. Simeon. What do you got coming up on the channel in the near future?
Just the usual. I'll enter a couple of contests and show I won't be home till weekend after next, but I'll have a bunch of stuff waiting on me, and I'll just go through it. But at the end of January, early February, I will have all 3 of the sideshow statues I've been waiting almost a year on in.
Nice.
And I'm going to do a new room tour, and that'll be cool as nails.
Cool.
Then I'm going to drop another contest with a different giveaway format. At least I haven't seen it yet. And the prizes are going to be independent slabs. But also, what I would highly encourage everyone to head over to Jim Mint and check out the statue video he dropped this morning. It is most excellent. And that's pretty much all I got, y'all.
I saw the Venom one he did. That thing was a sorry ass statue, bro.
Yeah, but it's made out of vine. I mean, it doesn't look horrible, but
Yeah.
$200 for $200, I want to be wiped off when we're done. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That was
But no, check out the one he dropped this morning. I promise you will enjoy it. It is beautiful.
I will. Nice.
All right, good stuff there, good stuff. I'm going to post 2 links here in the chat. The first one is for those of you who need a fix of Mr. Miracle. That's Mr. Miracle's greatest hits compilation I put together for you. Don't watch it with too much salt because you will go into a shock. The other one here, let me pull that up there. The other one, as I was digging through my older videos today, and I forgot about this one, I want to redo another one soon, but I actually want to see people out in the community do it, and that's my creator matchup video, basically where I take a lot of people from the YouTube comics community and kind of compare them to who I think they compare or line up with in the comic book realm. So yeah, give that one a check out too, and let me know what you all think, or do one. I want to see your own videos for it. So as far as what's coming up on the channel, I've gotten a little more routine lately. I know as much variety as I have.
Hey, I like
pretty
the
hard
chess
to.
videos. I
What's that?
Those. I dug your chess videos.
Oh, did you now?
Yeah, those were cool, man. I enjoyed those.
Yeah,
I got a lot of games to go through, and like I said, I've been playing more recently because I've actually got a comic book professional who's been one of my chess partners lately. So probably doing some games with him live. But yeah, that was cool. I like doing those commentary. I'm just not sure how good I am, and my games aren't all that great, but I do enjoy doing them. But yeah, I'm gonna try to I'm keeping things a little more regular now. Locking in on review stuff. I'm doing lots. I'm right now reviewing the entire Star Trek Next Generation episode by episode series along with clips. I'm going to do my once weekly music review song. Comic cover of the week.
Those are real good. Those music reviews. Steve Whiting and I are big fans of those.
You seem to like that. Who? You and who?
Steve Whiting and I are big fans of those.
Oh yeah. I got some of the regular heavy hitters in there coming in for the chat, but. So enjoying that series, and I got a few other things coming down the pipe, but I'm going to try to keep kind of a little more localized to that, and of course a couple motor vlogs from here and there. But I mean, other than that, there's nothing else too special other than the regular coming up. But you never know the channel. So, oh yes, tomorrow night I'll be on a new live stream. This is kind of a brainchild of mine, but I'm going to do it on someone else's channel the first time. I'm doing a Friday the 13th stream with some other horror channels out there. So look for Derek's Horror Corner. And tomorrow, I believe it's 7 or 8. I can't remember which it is. There'll be a live stream. We're going to go over the first 5 Friday the 13th movies. Kind of almost like similar to this format, but maybe a little faster. And then the remake. So basically all the human Jasons. And then the next one we'll do on my channel It's going to be, I think, 5-person panel, and we're going to go over all the zombie Jason movies. So
Cool.
that could be a recurring thing in the future for different horror movies and different movie stuff. So there is that coming up as well. And lastly, the comics professional that I promised an interview for has verified that probably next week is when it's going to happen. So I got an interview coming up there.
Tim Lee.
Jim Lee?
Yeah, Mr. Lee. Yeah, he's going to fly me out there. We're going to do a face-to-face. So I'm also going to be doing some storyboards for a new book we've been working on, but I can't keep a DL guy. I don't know.
Yeah, they're too funny, man.
Oh, yeah. We call it wild dogs instead of wildcats. But
Wild dogs.
so that's basically what's going on. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And, thank you, Graham, man. That was kind of your idea to reach out to some other people. And I released a video. I'm sorry, I keep talking. I released a video a little while ago asking people to critique my channel, and I've taken it to heart. I'm changing how I label things. I'm changing keywords. I'm reaching out to different people. So just trying to build, a little more camaraderie around the community, because it's so easy to get tied up just making videos and not paying attention to how you're doing it and who you're releasing it to. So I got caught up in content. But anyway, I've been rambling long enough, so we're going to go ahead and close out now. Do any of you guys have anything else you want to tell this lovely audience before we get on our merry ways?
I just want to say I appreciate you guys in the chat, here on the panel, my homies, some of my favorite people. Simeon, you're my guy, dude. When I see a Simeon Hall comes up, because I don't know all the inner workings of it, but I gather he goes to work and he's away for a while, and he comes home to a stack of goodies from his orders and stuff. And whenever I see a new Simeon Hall video, I can't click so fast, dude, when I see those. So you're the man. That's awesome. Roger's a national treasure. He knows that.
Oh, man.
Genome, the brainchild of this operation, my guy. One of the only guys I can jump into watch him play some Batman, Arkham Knights. Anyway, no real special message. Just like, you're my guys. That's about it.
That's true. Oh yes, big, huge thank you for Unruly Simeon for coming in and talk last second.
Tape on last minute.
Basically 5 minutes before I reached out to him before the show. So appreciate you coming in strong. Oh, and by the way, speaking of your community love, make sure to check out Comic Head's video of his top 10 YouTube content comic book creators. So,
oh
yeah,
that one was great, man. That was so fun, man. If
That was awesome.
Like that one.
Yeah,
that was
all right. So,
cool. That was cool.
You want me to link the channel? I'll just type it down here. I don't have it right in front of me. It's Derek's Horror Corner.
Yeah, and this is our first graders notes of 2020. But
oh yes,
that's right. Remember, we just made it. Like, I echo what Kenny has said. We have the best chat, very knowledgeable chat here, and they're great at figuring out. Even if they haven't read the book, they still from our analysis they chime in, and that means a lot. That they actually listen to what's going on. Oh, look who we got there! Look at that.
That's Loki, the Wonder Puppy.
There he is.
Hi, Loki. Oh, he heard his name. Hey. Hi, Loki.
I got Blinky the One Fish, and he's got Loki the Wonder Pup. And that's
so remember, in 2 weeks, we'll be back, Comic Head 84 channel, reviewing the drug issue GLGA 85.
All right. So, and really, let's see if anything else. We'll go ahead and sign off here.
No, I'm good. Peace, y'all.
And thanks for staying up late. I think you usually go a bit earlier in this too. So, thanks again for coming in strong. So, thank you so much, chat, for hanging in with us tonight, for being the best part of the show. And we'll have another show coming at you with some Green Lantern action in 2 weeks on Comic Head 84's channel. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, this is Genome and the Greatest Notes crew